Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How
Good.
are
Nice to
you?
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I've been looking at your books. Wow. I love Twilight Zone. I love all the things you're doing. James Bond. All your books sound really good, and your podcast sounds really interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a lot of fun with it. I haven't made a dime on it, but it's been fun. I'm
Yeah.
not so much interested in using it as a money-making source as much as just a way to get my brand out there.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Appreciate that. How long have you been doing your podcast?
A month.
Well, welcome to the club. Is it exciting?
I love it. I love meeting everybody. It's just so fun. I'm an author, so I thought it would be nice to have other authors on to be able to promote our works, collectively and build a little community. Because so many of us, we put our books out there and our publishers, say they put us in for a month and promote us for a month and then forget about us. So I wanted to do something where we can promote it ourselves, help
You're
each
lucky
other.
if you get you're lucky if you get a month out of
Yeah,
it.
totally. Yeah,
Now,
really.
are those some of those books behind you?
Yeah, those are all my books. Yeah.
Oh, that's what an interesting collection. So you do some of them look a young adult. Are they young adult?
Yeah, well some of them are. The this one's a children's book. The Pillywiggin is the offshoot of that. It's a young adult book for Comic-Con people actually, the which
It
is
looks like a
anywhere
little
from
science fiction there with black tide. Is
Black
that
Tide to Sci-Fi. It's a comic book that Image Comics published a long time ago, and I'm taking it out again next year. And then I have War Eagles, which is Marion C. Cooper's and Ray Harryhausen asked me to do that one. Do you know about War Eagles?
yeah,
The
I remember that from like one of those projects that never got made, right?
Right, right. So Ray Harryhausen came to me and with his partner Arnold Kunert and asked me to write the book and the movie and then produce them both. And so I had a publishing company and I did the book. We published it. I worked with I hired Carl Masick to work with me on it to write it, and then we have the script also that we're one of these days, hopefully knock on wood, we'll get the script done and do a
No,
movie on
well,
it.
Ray Harryhausen in my life is an idol.
Oh, he was wonderful. I love
Oh,
him.
I mean, I can't tell you how many of his films are just not only legendary, but just very much part of the inspiration to be part
Hmm.
of this crazy industry. Absolutely. In fact,
Absolutely.
what was I saying the other day? I think I'm trying to remember. In addition to doing my podcast, I do a classic film review every
Hmm.
Saturday.
Okay.
And I think the other day I did one on Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which was probably the first one I
Yeah.
saw. And I from the land beyond beyond, from the world past hope and fear, I bid you, genie, now appear. I mean, it's etched in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, what a nice career he
Now,
had.
have you done any acting? Have you been an actress as well?
I was an actress, yeah, but when I did some small parts, in commercials, but my one day my agent and my hairdresser died, and so I something came over me and told myself to get out before the manicurist gets it, it just like that weird. It was the AIDS epidemic. It was very sad, but it was also it prodded me to go into the business of film. So I became a film executive after that and worked in the film industry for about 15 years. I had an
Did you
agency
work down in
also.
LA, or
Yeah,
who
yeah.
did you work for?
We started three home video companies from scratch, and then I started my own agency and a printing company, and then I worked with all the major studios for 15 years, providing services, marketing, printing, manufacturing. We did overseas manufacturing and stuff like that. So
Oh, that's
that
that. Well,
was
we were probably kindred spirits because I was a film publicist for 25 years.
oh great. Okay.
I worked also for all the studios, and then I started my producing career going to Showtime in '92.
Okay.
And it was a great time to be a film producer because they were making 30 movies a year.
Yeah.
And by the time I got my first movie made, they stopped making movies. So that was
Oh no.
unfortunate.
Oh no.
But
Well,
I can talk a little bit about that during the cast.
yeah, but the industry has really kind of grown. When we were in it, you and I were in it, it was very lucrative for all the studios. It was, a lot of money involved in it, but also there's a lot of control in that. Now it seems like people are going to have more control over their own content, I know it's a little bit weird right now because we don't know how it's going to shake out, but I think it's going to be good for producers, with the
Well,
different
as my
avenues.
mother would say, from your mouth to God's ear,
I hope
because
so.
it has not been great for producers unless you're in the club. If you're in
Yeah,
the club, no worries. But if one more company tells me, "Well, I'm sorry, sir, we don't look at scripts, we only look at packages," I
yeah,
said, if you only look at packages, go to work for UPS.
yeah. I know, really. I mean, I at one point I had four movies all set up at my whole film slate set up at a studio with funding, and then the crash happened. And so
Oh,
everything like boop. But and then also I got things where like my films inspired other people to take parts of them, which also it wasn't really stealing. If they take a small part of yours and change it, they can't really be held accountable for stealing it, right? So that's what happened to me. So then I went underground for 10 years and now I'm just coming back out now and putting my packages together for to try to get my movies made again.
well, I spend a lot of time looking for money,
Hmm.
which of course is the key. In fact, I'm enrolled in a course right now. Mark Klebanoff, who promotes heavily on the internet, has a indie financing course. So I'm
Hmm.
learning a few tricks of the trade.
Hmm.
But like any time you look for money, you got to start with some money. It's good to start with some money.
That's what they
So
say.
that's been the challenging point. I'm sure eventually it will come, but and now it's not good enough to meet a millionaire. You got to find a billionaire.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too risky
It
otherwise.
is pretty risky, very,
Yeah.
very risky.
Yeah. But
So
anyways,
yeah,
yeah, let's begin. Tell me about your books. What do you want to start with?
you pick them. You go right ahead. We can
Well,
start from the very beginning.
yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Which one did you do first?
Well, I first did combat films.
Okay. Yeah, those are fun. I mean, when I was researching for War Eagles, I had to research a lot of the technology of the
Sure.
30s and stuff. So, combat war films are something that they have to be researched because you have to have them believable in order to make a good movie, right?
Realism is key, hence the subtitle of my book, Combat Films, American Realism.
Hmm. Were
Sure.
most of the people involved in the movies that you researched, were they part of those wars or did they just research the wars?
That's a very good question. Are we on audio now
Yeah,
or?
yeah, we are. We have been
Oh, okay.
actually, and I may use some of this for our blooper reel and stuff. I don't know. I just feel like being authentic is actually the best way to go.
No,
So,
no, that's fine. That's fine. Um, well, a lot of this is interesting because I think a lot of effectiveness of the World War II movies, particularly, was that many of the filmmakers were involved in the war,
mm,
uh, in actual uniform as well as, promoting American ideals to the masses because the government was convinced that movies were a major propaganda effort and very much a part of how to get the word out. I mean, when World War II began for us after Pearl Harbor, we had very few soldiers. We
mhm,
had to recruit millions of soldiers, and we had to convince them that fighting the Germans and the Japanese was a good idea. Um, this is from a public from World War One was very much pacifist.
mhm,
The World War One experience, a lot of people don't realize this today after 1918 was horrifying. Not as much here, although we did have significant casualties, but millions of people died in Europe, and I think it translated over here. So then by the time World War II comes around, the government realized that they really had to make a strong effort to convince the public, particularly possible recruits, that it was a good thing.
mhm,
So when I was doing my research on my book, Combat Films American Realism, 1945 originally to 1970, um, I started tracking down and interviewing a lot of writers and producers and directors who were involved in those early World War II movies.
mhm.
And
Wow.
I had fascinating stories. Actually, the very first person I interviewed, because what I did was, and this is long before the internet, this is back in the 1970s, where the only source of information on Hollywood was the Motion Picture Academy Library, which
Yeah.
was much tinier than it is today. It was just really one large room on Melrose, next to what is now a Petco. And I would bring my little portable typewriter into this library and I would go for all these files. And they had files on virtually every film that had been produced up until the early 70s. So I got a lot of information there. And I opened my phone book one day, and one of the movies I was researching was a movie called Halls of Montezuma, which
Hmm.
was a 1950 release by 20th Century Fox. It was about Marines fighting on a Pacific island with Richard Widmark and Carl Malden. And the screenwriter of that movie was a gentleman named Michael Blankfort. Now, Michael Blankfort was listed in the Beverly Hills phone directory. So I called him, set up an interview, and he was my very first interview. Turned out Michael Blankfort was a blacklisted screenwriter.
Wow.
So he wrote Halls of Montezuma. He also wrote Broken Arrow, the Jimmy Stewart Western,
I remember
which was
that.
considered a real trend-setting Western by portraying Indians with dignity, or I should say Native Americans. So Michael was a terrific interview, and then he introduced me to Edmund North. Now, Edmund North wrote Patton,
Oh
and he
yeah.
wrote he wrote The Day the Earth Stood Still, a science fiction movie, which we
I
all
love
remember
that
from the
one. Yeah.
50s. And then Edmund North introduced me to Robert Pyrosh, who wrote Battleground, which won the Oscar for Best Screenplay in 49. He later created the TV series Combat. And then Robert Pyrosh introduced me to George Seaton, who wrote and directed 36 Hours. So just making the connections was so much fun for me. And over the course of 2 years, I interviewed about 60 filmmakers, and that was
Wow.
the crux of what my book was. One of my favorite experiences was going out to Warner Brothers and sitting down with John Sturges, who directed The Great Escape, which
Hmm.
is my favorite film of all time.
My
So,
brother loves that movie too.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, John was fabulous, and uh, I never went to film school. I mean, I went to UCLA. I studied history and journalism. And so my film school was actually learning about how films were made from the filmmakers themselves.
What a way to
And
learn. Awesome.
by the way, by the same at the same time I was researching combat films, I was a staff writer for Cinefantastique,
Mm.
which was the film magazine out of Chicago. Editor Fred Clark. By the way, that's where I first learned about War Eagles and all about Ray Harryhausen. And in fact, the very first issue I ever purchased used to go up to Larry Edmunds' bookshop in Hollywood. And that's where I found out there was this magazine called Cinefantastique. And on the cover was a cover story devoted to the films of George Pal.
Mm.
Well, I didn't know many filmmakers at that time. I was a high school kid, but I knew the name George Pal because he directed or he produced um, oh no, actually directed The Time Machine,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Nice.
1960.
Oh
I
wow.
just I just watched one of his films the other day, The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe with
Okay.
Tony Randall.
Hmm.
So I was basically at Cinefantastique specializing in covering behind the scenes on the 1950s films, like the one I just mentioned, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And then I did a cover story on Forbidden Planet,
Hmm.
another one on War of the Worlds. I did a major feature story on Them about the giant ants in the New Mexico desert,
I remember
which, by
that.
the way, is being remade.
Oh really? Oh
Michael
fun.
Giacchino, who's a prominent composer, is going to make his directing debut as the director of a new Them. So that's
Wow.
interesting.
How fun. Well, the timing would be really good. So you've interviewed all of these wonderful people. Is there a common thread of what you learned from them, or you must have learned some kind of secrets about making films that are that successful?
Very much so. Everybody had stories. And, I'm interviewing them in the 70s, and this is long before Entertainment Tonight. This is long before electronic press kits. Behind the scenes information was not really well known. Peter Bogdanovich, the great film director,
Mhm.
had started interviewing filmmakers in the 60s, but popular film history was not as prevalent as it is today.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed these stories. I remember interviewing Henry Hathaway, who was one of the great kind of robust Western directors and did a lot of different types of films. He directed in 1951 the Rommel biopic called The Desert Fox with James Mason. And there's a scene in The Desert Fox where Rommel is in his staff car driving in Normandy, and he's attacked by two Spitfires who basically trash the car, flips up into the air, and is destroyed. And Rommel ends up on the highway, critically injured. Well, Henry told me that they had this wonderful classic Mercedes touring car, very vintage 1930s car, and there was no way the studio was going to allow them to turn it into a molten pile of trash. So he told me, watch the scene very carefully. So you see the Spitfire's tracers hitting the car flips up on the back end, and then he cuts to a racetrack and it's a race car flipping up in the air with a number on the side of it. But it's such a quick cut, the average person would never notice that. It was like a
Wow.
flash cut.
Oh, wow.
So,
How
so
fun.
that was the magic in the movies. Only Henry Hathaway, or maybe the editor, could have told me that story. But I now, when I watch The Desert Fox, and I've seen it many times, I will. I will notice that scene. And all the movies I've researched, I've found interesting information that people, when I interviewed Edmund North, who wrote The Day the Earth Stood Still, I asked him a question. I said, there's this phrase in the movie, Klaatu Barada Nikto, which Patricia Neal has to say to the giant robot. What does that mean?
Mhm.
And he told me. I was the first person, I don't think anybody had ever asked him that question. And Klaatu Barada Nikto means there's hope for Earth if the scientists can be reached.
Wow. Well, that's very wise.
So that was cool. I mean, that was fun. And then my stories got a lot of attention in the magazine. I got my first fan letter from Leonard Maltin, of all
Oh,
people.
wow.
And Leonard loved my Day of the Earth is Still retrospective article. And just, I wasn't making any money doing this really, but I was getting such plaudits from people that it encouraged me to pursue a career, although I did not pursue a writing career at that time.
Mhm.
I made my living starting in 1978 as a publicist.
Hmm.
I was hired by United Artists to go on the road to promote their remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Wow.
So all I did was go to science fiction conventions for 10 months
Oh, how fun.
all over the country. I went to San Diego Comic-Con when
Uh-huh.
they had 500 people there.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Now there's like 300,000 people at Comic-Con.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me one memorable story from all of those interviews. What's your favorite story?
Well, that's a really good question. One of my favorite stories from all of those stories. Well, actually, I can tell you how I started working for Cinefantastique.
Okay.
What happened was I was interviewing the screenwriter of a movie called Hell to Eternity,
Hmm.
1960, Jeffrey Hunter. It's the true story of an American Marine named Guy Gabaldon, who was raised by Japanese Americans in East Los Angeles. And when they were all shipped to the internment camps, he went to Saipan as a Marine landing in the first wave. And because he spoke some Japanese, he single-handedly captured over 1,100 Japanese.
Wow.
It's one of the great feats of World War II. So I was interviewing Ted. They made the movie with Jeffrey Hunter. In reality, Guy Gabaldon was of Hispanic descent, about 5'3 3/4. And so they cast Jeffrey Hunter, who was Caucasian and over 6 feet, but that's neither here nor there. But I was interviewing Guy. I was sitting in his backyard in the valley interviewing Guy, and at one point he said, "Kind of reminds me of what I did on Them." And then I realized that he had written Them, and I didn't know
Wow.
that because I didn't have a list of his credits.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote to Fred Clark and I said, would you be interested in an interview with the writer of Them? And I got a very favorable letter back. He said, can you find the director too? So I ended up interviewing both Ted Sherderman and Gordon Douglas, who directed Them.
Oh,
And that was
wow.
how I got the job on Cinefantastique by accident, because I never would have known that Ted Sherderman had written them.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was a fun story. That I learned interesting facts from literally everybody. And then when I started being a publicist for the studios, often I would do the interviews for the electronic press kit. So I'd have to interview the cast on the set and learn additional things. Sometimes it was a little embarrassing because the crew would come out before the movie had even started, and I'd have to ask the actor how did they enjoy the experience of working on the movie when they hadn't worked on the movie yet.
Oh,
So they
no.
had to kind of fake it a little bit. It was
Uh,
kind of funny.
well, they're actors.
But one
That's,
thing I discovered in working on film, it's, as you know, it's very special, being on a film set, being around all these creators, being part of an enterprise. It's a really wonderful experience working with really truly wonderful creators and being part of history.
mhm.
I was assigned I went to Paramount in '85. I interviewed for Top Gun to be the publicist on Top
Oh,
Gun,
wow.
but Marsha Robertson, a friend of mine, got the gig, so they assigned me instead to Pretty in Pink.
Oh, how cute. I love Pretty in Pink.
Yeah. Me obsessed with World War II and action and all these things, and I'm assigned to work on Pretty in Pink. It was fun though. I got a chance to work closely with John Hughes
Mhm.
and director Howie Deutsch and Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy, John Cryer.
Yeah, well,
Just
that's
fun.
an iconic film. You did a good job on the press on that.
It did, and the funny thing is, one day we were filming on the Third Street Promenade in LA, and we were shooting the sequences that take place in Annie Potts's little record shop where
Hmm.
Molly Ringwald's character works. And we had a break while they changed the lighting, and I wandered into the kind of like the alley behind the store, and there were these beautifully painted walls, very colorful brick walls. And Laurel Moore, the still photographer, and I went back there. And we grabbed the three actors and we put them up against this wall. And would you believe that that became the poster for the movie?
Oh, wow.
All those posters, featuring the threesome was taken on kind of going in the back. Just goes to show you that if, as a publicist and a still photographer, sometimes you have to have a real good eye for what could be an iconic poster shot.
Yeah. And things happen on the fly a lot. The creative happens on the fly. That's really cool. That's neat. All right, well, tell me about your next book.
Well, combat films, after all that wonderful effort, sold 500 copies. So I realized that if I continue at this rate, I will end up in the poorhouse or at least selling shoes somewhere. So I kind of looked around for a new book idea, and I was a big James Bond movie fan.
Yeah,
Now,
we all are.
by the mid 70s, the series had been over a decade old. And no one had done a behind the scenes using those same techniques I learned at Cinefantastique and through my
Mhm.
combat films book, interviewing the actual filmmakers. So I must have caught Albert R. Broccoli on a good day because I got an interview with him and it was very pleasant. And then he introduced me to Michael Wilson, his stepson, in London. And that summer of 1977, I went over and did all my interviews. Unfortunately, they had just wrapped The Spy Who Loved Me, so
Oh,
I did not see any of the filmmaking, but I got all these wonderful interviews. And the book was published 4 years later, 1981, and we sold over the course of the two editions over 50,000 copies
that's awesome.
for a film book, that was decent money. And I
Yeah.
mean, not that I could live on that very long, but I realized that I could write books that could sell if I picked a large topic.
Hmm.
And here it is, 2025. The Bond series is 63 years old, still going strong.
Hmm.
Amazon just paid $1 billion. That's billion with a B
Yeah.
as in boy, just for the creative ability to control the franchise.
Yeah.
So the Michael and his sister Barbara Broccoli made off like bandits. And so it's still going strong. My fourth edition of the James Bond movie encyclopedia came out 3 years ago, just in time for No Time to Die. So
Okay.
it is the gift that keeps on giving. And I have a lot of fun talking about Bond. Everybody wants to ask me who's going to be the next James Bond. And I can tell you, I have no clue.
I don't think any of us do, but it'll be great, whatever it is, because the stories are so good and the franchise is so strong.
It is. It's a strong franchise. Their big competition, though, now is Mission Impossible,
Mm.
Jason Bourne, Fast and the Furious, John Wick. A lot of when they first started the James Bond movies back in 1962 with Dr. No, there was no competition.
No, but it's
Now
not really
everybody,
competition. It's more like it's another movie that everybody will go see. Because I would see every single one of those. I love it.
yes,
You
yes,
know?
it is a very successful franchise, and they've branded very nicely, and the quality has always been very top tier.
Hmm.
Even some of the movies that, for my money, didn't work as well, the performances were always great. And Daniel Craig, I thought, was a really worthy successor to people like Sean Connery and Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, although those three are iconic
They
in my
are.
mind. They're really
They
good.
are.
They're all good though. But what was your favorite Bond movie?
The first one I saw, which was in Christmas 1964, my parents took me to the Chinese theater in Hollywood, which we rarely went to, and I saw Goldfinger.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It was a good one, and that was particularly key for me because I had just read the book.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
my junior high school classmates were all reading James Bond novels. They had these very colorful covers, and it was something new. I was 12. I think I was, let's see, I was 13, and they were a little risque. Here I'm reading Dr. Dolittle and Tom Sawyer
Mhm.
and the Happy Hollisters, and all of a sudden, my dad hands me a copy of Goldfinger with the picture of a naked woman on the cover. She was tastefully
Mhm.
covered, but hello.
Yeah. Hello, hey,
So, and
Dad.
Goldfinger is such a very, very exciting movie on in many ways. And when they introduced the Aston Martin DB5 with
Mhm.
modifications for a 13-year-old boy, whoa, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, all the cars are so great. Every single Bond movie, the thing I also look for is the car. What are they going to do to it? Or the boats. I want to
Exactly.
see
They
those
went
gadgets.
in the last Pierce Brosnan Die Another Day, they just went a little too far
Yeah.
with creating an invisible car. It just didn't
Well,
work for me, but yeah,
maybe we're
they're
going to have
entitled.
invisible cars one day. Sure, cloaking. Why
I
not?
don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I shouldn't say no because everything is changing. Technology has run amok.
I have an invisible car in my comic book series.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Of course,
right.
it's an Atlantean cloaking device, but still, whatever.
Those pesky Atlanteans. Then what will
Yeah.
they come up with next?
Yeah, really.
By the way, speaking of George Pal, I was watching one of his films the other day called Atlantis: The Lost Continent,
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
which from '61. It has some really good things in it. I enjoyed it.
Oh, nice. Nice. So, I see a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid behind you. Is there a
I did
reason
an
for that?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite films. I did an essay recently on Robert Redford, who sadly we lost.
Yeah.
I think Robert Redford will go down in history as one of the most popular actors of all time, and such
Mm-hmm.
a force for independent filmmakers. Part of
Yeah.
our entrepreneurial spirit to try to get films made has to be inspired by his work because he brought dignity to the work of the indie.
Mm-hmm.
I think before Robert Redford, indie filmmakers were just cast out on their own, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But with the Sundance Film Festival and all of his work through the Sundance Institute, it brought a great deal of importance to the indie filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Did
think
you
it.
ever get a chance to meet him, Debbie?
No.
I saw him from afar once. I
Okay.
was assigned as a publicist to a 1984 film called Desert Bloom
Hmm.
with John Voight and Jo Beth Williams and Ellen Barkin. It was about a family living in Las Vegas prior to the first nuclear tests
Hmm.
at Nellis Air Force Base. And I don't know if you recall this, it was in the news, but in those days, if they were going to do a nuclear test, people would go out to a nearby mountain with a
Yeah,
picnic lunch.
I saw films on that or it was a video on that or something. Yeah,
Insane,
crazy. Yeah,
insane,
they just didn't
absolutely
know.
insane.
Yeah,
So it
crazy.
so Annabeth Gish, and it was her first film. She plays John's daughter, and she's going through her own coming of age crisis. But we filmed it in Tucson, and it was just a wonderful experience. And that was the first film of the Sundance Institute. It was their first engineered film, so it was very exciting. And he came out to the set one day. I didn't get a chance to meet him personally, but I have great respect for Robert Redford. Also, so many of his roles are iconic. How could you
Yeah,
not want to write about him?
yeah, he's a really good actor. So is Paul Newman. Yeah,
Yes, well, Paul Newman has his own place in the sun too.
yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so Twilight Zone, my favorite. I love
Well,
Twilight Zone.
after
It,
the success of the James Bond encyclopedia, I was again rummaging around for a new subject, and I had met Carol Serling, Rod Serling's widow, and because I made a little short film as an experimental film, I decided I was going to remake a Twilight Zone episode just to see if I could do it. It wasn't designed for commercial exposure. I just wanted to get a group of my friends together. And we chose an interesting one. I think it's a fifth season episode. It's called The Seventh is Made Up of Phantoms.
hmm.
It's about an American tank crew on maneuvers in modern South Dakota when they go through a warp and they end up near Custer's last stand.
Oh, wow.
So my friend
That's
Rory
cool.
Elward had become very friendly with the U.S. Marine Liaison Office. We got permission to shoot at Camp Pendleton as a training exercise movie.
Oh, wow.
So we shot that in 98, came out in 99. And so Carol liked it a lot. She thought it was a lot of fun. So I decided to reach out to her. I said, if I do a Twilight Zone encyclopedia, will you give me access to a lot of Rod's papers and filing cabinet stuff? And she was very cooperative. So I
Nice.
wrote the Twilight Zone encyclopedia. I sat down with a legal pad and I watched all 156 episodes in a row, not
Oh
all on
my
the same
gosh.
day, of course,
Yeah.
but I would make notes of everything that was good enough for an encyclopedia reference.
Okay.
And up until then, there had been a book done on the Twilight Zone by Mark Zicree. It was called The Twilight Zone Companion, which was very good. It did a lot of discussion of the various episodes, but not a lot of behind the scenes. And I was interested in as much behind the scenes material as I could find.
Mhm.
So Carol was helpful. She gave me, not only did she give me all these photographs that I could put in the book, but she gave me all the contracts so I could tell you what Cliff Robertson made when he starred in an episode, that kind of thing. By the way,
Wow.
top of show on the Twilight Zone, if you were the star like Cliff Robertson was in two episodes, $5,000.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Well, yeah. That's all, but there was a lot of money that in those days.
It was
It,
different. It was a whole different story. Do you have a favorite Twilight Zone episode?
I watched most of them, but I remember the one with the creature on the airplane wing, only
With
because I was in an airplane and the wing started coming up like that. It reminded me of that movie. What I liked about Twilight Zone was that the moral of the story was always there. It was very thoughtfully written, so that each story had a moral, and it was like a teaching thing. And I loved that. It was a little bit weird and out there, and it came back to telling us how we should really behave as humans.
and then what was the moral for the Nightmare at 20,000 feet? I'm curious what you think.
That one probably like don't fly that airline. I don't know if it, but
The
I
moral
don't
is
know.
the moral is don't look out the window.
Don't look out the window. Okay. But most of the other ones, like, you get these stories where the people are um not being nice to each other and whatnot. You see the repercussions of that. That's what I liked.
Oh yeah. Well, there was method behind Rod's madness. He could not tell moral tales in regular television. There was a
Hmm.
lot of pushback on issue-oriented programming. I mean, he was once told there was a very famous case about the young black man Emmett Till. You may have heard of him.
Hmm.
He was just horribly murdered, and he wanted to tell the tale on a live TV drama, And a network executive literally told him, "You can do this, but turn him from a black man into a Mexican." And Rod was outraged, and he began to realize that if he really wanted to do morality tales, the best way to do it was disguise them in science fiction or fantasy,
Hmm.
or horror for that matter.
Hmm.
So a lot of his one of his most famous episodes is called Eye of the Beholder. It's about a young woman who's having an operation to change her facial features to conform with what society is. And what's interesting about the filmmaking is the doctors and nurses and all the personnel in the hospital, you never see their faces until at the end of the movie.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
They remove her bandages, and she's Donna Douglas from the Beverly Hillbillies, this gorgeous blonde,
Uh-huh.
and all the medical personnel have pig faces.
Yeah, I remember that one now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Major, very subtle discussion about racism and all of
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
totalitarianism. Yeah. Rod was a brilliant, brilliant writer, and he was very, very particularly good at dialogue. A
Hmm.
lot of his stories have just dialogue you could just cut with a knife. It was perfect.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you have a
But
favorite
here's
episode?
Oh, my favorite episode is the one with Burgess Meredith, where he's the little bookish bank clerk nobody will let him read. He goes home and his wife refuses to let him read. His boss won't let him read. So he goes into the vault every day to read in the vault, and he closes the door and the world ends. So he opens the door and the city's in ruins. And that is called Time Enough at Last. I won't give away the punchline, but that's one of my favorite. But here's a funny story.
Okay.
Um, one day I asked Carol about Rod's motivation. A lot of his stories are so fascinating. What were some of his influences? Where did he learn how to write so well? She said, "Steve, you should read the preface to one of his books. He has a collection of all his live TV dramas that were very well made, and they were bound and done as a book." And she gave me his personal copy,
Oh my
which I took
gosh.
home. And it is a long preface, but I had no time to read it because I had to go to a dinner with my wife. So I left it on my desk, and I came back and it disappeared. Now, I was horrified because I borrowed Rod's personal copy. Fortunately, it wasn't an autograph copy, but it was Carol's only copy of the book. And I looked for that book for 3 days. I have no idea. I mean, there may have been a way it got transmitted into another dimension, but it's just a weird story. And then a second weird story happened about 5 years later. I was in Binghamton, New York for a Twilight Zone symposium, and a fellow writer and I went out to Rod's house in Binghamton where he grew up. And a lady came out of the house and offered to take a picture of the two of us standing in front of Rod Serling's house. I said, "That's great." So she took the picture with my iPhone, and I thanked her very much. And then I looked at the picture. It was in black and white.
Huh.
I
Weird.
didn't give her I didn't make any adjustments to the camera. It should have been a color photo. So considering the 5 years of the original series were done in black and white, I thought it was
Oh
quite
wow, that's
appropriate.
pretty fun.
So can I play the little theme? Do 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 do.
Yeah. Yeah, I play that often when I talk sometimes.
We're the Twilight Zone theme is probably, if not the most famous theme in history, pretty close.
Yeah, it's wonderful, especially if you have something weird that you're going to say. How great. That's so cool. Yeah, I love that. And all right, so tell me about your next book, the oh, what's the title
A
of it?
children's book.
The Children, yeah. The Cat Who Lived with Anne Frank.
Oh, that has an interesting story behind it. Well, one of my hobbies is I play full-length feature films on audio while I'm shaving.
Okay.
It's just a way I find as a screenwriter, listening to great movies and great dialogue can't help but influence you.
Mhm.
So one day I had George Stevens' 1959 film, The Diary of Anne Frank, on the audio, and I was listening to a sequence in the movie where they've moved into the attic, and all of a sudden they're chasing Mushi around the attic. Now Mushi was Peter's cat who he brought into the attic, and Anne was chasing him. Margaret was chasing him. Peter was chasing him, And it suddenly dawned on me, what did the cat think of this weird situation where people never go outside
Mm,
and 12 hours a day they have to remain perfectly still? Otherwise, they could be betrayed. So I called up my friend David Miller, who is a screenwriter, filmmaker, and he knows the children's market very well. And I said, David, what do you think of a book called The Cat Who Lived with Anne Frank? And David loved the idea, and thus began our journey to, first of all, we wrote a movie first,
hmm
and then we wrote the book later. But whereas and the book was published by Penguin. It's out there. You can get it online. It's called The Cat Who Lived with Anne Frank. Amazon sells it. That's basically Anne's story from Mushi's point of view.
hmm
Our movie, Mushi leaves the attic every day and joins the Dutch animal resistance against the Nazis.
Oh, how cute.
So in our story, which is metaphorical, the German Shepherds, Rottweilers, and
Ah,
Dobermans that patrol the canals are the bad guys.
oh, wow.
So we're getting a lot of heat for that project, good heat, and our hope is to we're building a 4-minute sizzle reel in the next couple months, and
Mhm.
we're hopefully going to sell it next year. That's our goal.
Oh, that would be fun. I'll go see that.
There you
That
go.
sounds cute. Sounds cute. So also you have two podcasts, right?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I have Stephen J. Rubin's Saturday Night at the Movies, and Jay is spelled out Jay. And we've done 165 podcasts over 3 years. And we interview people from both sides of the camera. I've interviewed people like Stephanie Powers. I interviewed Bruce Greenwood, who played Captain Pike in the Star Trek movies.
hmm
Nancy Olson, who played William Holden's girlfriend in Sunset Boulevard, and Jimmy Hunt, who played the kid in Invaders from Mars. And
Wow.
then getting back to the day the Earth stood still, I talked to Billy Gray. And I have so much fun talking about various aspects of the movie business and the television business and pop culture.
How
And
fun.
that's now available on all the podcast platforms. And we also have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And we're on a fast channel as well. And then my other podcast is called Tales from Hollywoodland.
hmm
And that I co-host with two other producers, Julian Schlossberg, who's done a lot of Broadway and some films, and Arthur E. Friedman, who comes from exhibition and distribution, but also produced the uh, Bobby Darin biopic that starred Kevin Spacey.
Oh, wow.
And we're partnered right now. Arthur and I are developing a 8-part miniseries on the life of Audie Murphy.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
I've heard of it. I don't really know.
In the history of the United States, no soldier in combat ever received more medals than
Okay.
Audie Murphy. During World War II, he was awarded 33 medals for bravery. After the war, Jimmy Cagney spotted his face on the cover of Life magazine, and he came out to Hollywood and ended up getting a contract at Universal, starred in 40 Westerns.
Oh, wow.
He was one of the most popular Western performers in Hollywood.
Oh, wow. So
But the
your
problem,
movie's gonna be
oh,
about his war stuff
his
or
life, it's a
or
miniseries. But the thing about Audie is he was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder,
oh.
PTSD, which
hmm
was hidden from the public.
hmm
And part of the reason we wanted to tell his full story was that no one has ever heard that aspect of his story.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I've always felt for the people that have to go to war, especially the kids. They're taught how to shoot somebody and then they have to go out and do it, and then they come home. I've always felt about that. That's one of the themes in my books too, is writing about that from their point of view, because I have such empathy for them. It must be so hard.
No one can adequately recreate war on a movie screen. It's so horrific that the gentleman, you talk about interviews, I sat down with Charles Durning once. Now, Charles Durning is a character actor. You'll remember him from
Mhm.
films like Tootsie and Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, unbeknownst to most people, he was a ranger on D-Day.
Oh,
Now, the
wow.
Rangers had to climb that sheer face at Point du Hoc. They had to
hmm
be the best of the best, kind of like our special forces and Green Berets today. Um, he didn't want to talk about it. It was horrific for him.
Hmm.
He was caught in a hand-to-hand combat situation where he was knifed in the throat. He
Wow.
almost died on those cliffs.
Wow.
But a great guy. He actually starred in my first movie produced that was for Showtime called Bleacher Bums.
Okay.
It's a baseball comedy that I made in 2002.
Oh, wonderful. What other film have you made any other films?
I have. I followed that with a true World War II story, and me, of course, interested in history. The story of it's a movie called Silent Night for the Hallmark Channel. It's a
Mm.
true story where on Christmas Eve 1944, in the midst of the Battle of the Bulge, German and American combat troops came to a small cabin in the Ardennes, and a German woman insisted they leave their weapons outside. And for 12 hours, these guys sat there, broke bread, sang songs, and believe it or not, they left as friends in the morning.
And then they didn't fight each other after that?
No, they didn't. Well, they may have gone back to the war in their own way, but they
Mm.
didn't fight each other. And we went up to Montreal in the summer of 2002, and Linda Hamilton, the lady from the Terminator movies,
Mhm.
she played the German woman, Erna Winken.
Oh, wow.
And she's very good. And the show, the movie was nominated for 4 Canadian Television Academy Awards. We're
Oh,
very
how,
proud of that film.
oh, that's wonderful. What a good premise as well. I wish that we could do that because I think that most people that actually fight wars would not fight each other if they, you know, if they
Got
weren't
to know
ordered
each
to.
other.
Well, yeah, that and if they weren't ordered to, but yeah, there's no reason for these people to fight each other. They should stop doing it. I hope. But anyway, so what are you working on now besides these things you've told me about? Is there something else?
Writing comedy, the great
Okay.
lost genre of Hollywood movies. I'm partnered with Billy Reback. Billy is a two-time Emmy-nominated uh, TV writer. He wrote for 5 years on Home Improvement, the Tim and Allen series.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy and I have a mission. We want to introduce feature comedy back to the multiplex or the stream or whatever. So we've been working diligently on creating new comedies, original comedies, at a tough time to sell originals. Everybody wants a reboot of Naked Gun, or they want a reboot of Freaky Friday, but we have some wonderful originals. One of our originals was inspired by the great courtroom drama, 12 Angry Men, Henry
Uh-huh.
Fonda.
Mm-hmm.
We've written 12 Anxious Men.
Sounds like a Woody Allen film.
Very Woody Allen is, with a touch of Monty Python. It's about the most
Oh,
dysfunctional jury in
oh
the
wow.
history of juries. Two of the jurors are conjoined. So we've
How
got
fun.
conjoined twins. We've got a crazy group jury, and they're trying a serial clown killer who's knocked off 5 clowns. So it's pretty. Now, the reason we wrote this is that from a logistics point of view, it's the most simple movie to shoot. It
Hmm.
all takes place pretty much in one room.
Oh, that's good.
So we're slowly but surely putting our elements together to make that movie sooner than later.
Oh, that's great. Well, now with everything that's happening, I bet you there'll be a market for that too. I mean, they're going to get tired of trying to make remakes because they're not going to do as well as originals will kind of come back.
I
They're going to
think you're
find a
right.
market for
I
that.
think you're right. I think that marketing departments are just going to have to work a little harder to introduce something original.
Yeah.
When they're handed the latest Godzilla movie, they know they can just put up an ad and they know they'll get 12 zillion people to see it.
Hmm.
But when it comes to an original, they have to start from scratch, and it can be done. I mean, there have been some big original successes of late.
Hmm.
Certainly with Sinners and Weapons, and so we believe firmly in originality. I think that we're hopeful we can get our stuff moving, but it's challenging.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you,
Well, our time's about up, but it was really lovely speaking with you. I loved listening to you and all your stories. It's just very interesting.
Debbie. Thank you, and good luck with your podcast. You're
Thank you.
you're a very charismatic host.
Oh, thank you. Well, you are too. You're good to interview because you are wonderful to be with. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you for joining us on By Storytellers. And I'll put all of his links in the posts, so check out everything that he has. He has a wealth of entertainment for you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.